Welcome back to our channel for another installation day. So today we are at our panel workshop Berlin Autocraft for another installation. So what we have in the shop right now is right over here. This is the car that we are currently working on to upgrade with a set of IPE full exhaust system. So this is a pre-facelift, pre-LCI 2015 F82 M4, and the car is being sent in for this IPE full exhaust upgrade. So now, as you can see, we have the exhaust display on the floor, and later once we get the factory exhaust system out from the car, we will put it side by side to compare with the IPE system and talk a little bit more about the differences between the factory system and the IPE system. Alright, so before we can start with the installation, we will do a sound check on how this M4 sounds like with the factory exhaust system, but it's not 100% factory system because the owner actually did a little bit of modifications on his car. So what he has done is that he fitted on a set of custom Catless downpipes, and also he did a resonator delete on the factory catback system. So the car is actually slightly louder compared to a bone stock M4, but the sound is a little bit too raspy, I would say. It's not so aggressive because you still have the factory rear muffler section on the car, and it actually filters out a little bit of sound on the M4, and that's why the owner has decided that he wants to go with a set of this IPE full exhaust system. We also have the IPE downpipes that is going into the car later. So now let's start up the car and listen to how it sounds. Over here, we have removed the factory catback section out from the M4, and we put it side by side to compare with the IPE system that we are going to install later. And now let's talk a little bit about the differences between the factory system and the IPE system. First, we look at the factory catback section. On the rear, we have this very huge and heavy and also very muted rear muffler section. Then down to the mid-pipe area, there is a center resonator. And originally on this section, you can see right over here, there's actually secondary cats right over here, but the owner has taken it off and welded with a pipe so that this is a secondary cat delete. The middle section remain with the factory center resonator and also the rear muffler. Then move towards the IPE system that we are going to install. On the rear section, we have our very own IPE Valvetronics muffler. So as you can see, the size comparison between the IPE system and the factory system is quite huge. This IPE muffler definitely is a lot smaller compared to that. And actually, IPE did apply a layer of this high temperature heat wrap on the muffler box. And also on the rear, we have our IPE exhaust tips, and these are actually slightly larger compared to the factory tips. And the owner has also optioned with the titanium blue tips so that it can match with his Miami blue color for his M4. Then down to the middle section. So what IPE did is basically quite similar with the stock system. So there remain a center resonator right over here in order to reduce the droning noise inside the cabin. Also on the mid-pipe area, IPE has also applied the high temperature heat wrap on both the center resonators and also the secondary cats so that it keeps the temperature down because the car is extremely hot, especially on the secondary cats area. Then further on, they also have this secondary cats, but this is definitely a lot smaller and shorter compared to the factory secondary cats because we don't actually have the factory secondary cats right over here for a direct comparison, but I would say this is way smaller compared to how the secondary cats on the factory system looks like. Also, this IPE system that we have here is made out of stainless steel material, so this is a lot lighter compared to the factory system. So with the IPE exhaust installed, you get proper performance improvements and also a lot of weight reduction over the factory system. And one more interesting thing about our IPE system is that this exhaust actually comes with vacuum valve instead of the electric valve like the one on the factory system. Is because that on the M3 and M4, even though if you put the car into Sport or Sport Plus mode, the electric valve actuator doesn't actually allows you to fully open up the valves, and that's why we have this IPE system comes with the vacuum valve so that you can have full control over the valve flaps. Whenever you turn on the valves, it will be fully open. And so you have heard how this F82 M4 sounds like with our IPE full exhaust system. And right before we end our video, I'll talk a little bit more about all the modifications that the owner has already did on this beautiful M4. So first of all, the wheels. We can see that the owner has actually fitted a set of this beautiful custom forged wheels from DRC, and right behind the wheels we have the AP Racing big brake kits with the slotted throttles, 20-inch on the front and also 20 on the rear, with a very deep concave, and it looks really amazing on the F82 M4. As well as, if you notice, the car is actually sitting quite low because the owner has actually installed a KW-V3 suspension on his M4. Then also we have the side skirts in carbon fiber. Then to the rear we have this really beautiful carbon fiber rear spoiler that looks really interesting. There's two layers on the spoiler, so I'm not quite sure what brand is this, but it looks really beautiful and it is rather special compared to all the very common carbon fiber spoiler that you have seen, the M Performance or maybe the Air-Draw rear wing. So this is quite an interesting rear wing, I would say. And finally, we have this beautiful IPE titanium blue tips installed, as well as the owner has this very beautiful and aggressive looking carbon fiber rear diffuser installed together, and it looks really aggressive from the rear. Also, the owner has installed these LCI tail lights on his M4. It completely changes the look of the F82 M4. And that's all for this video. So let us know in the comment section below what you think about the IPE for exhaust system on the S55 M4, the F82 series. So if you like our content, remember to like and share this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting contents in the future.